Hello and welcome to Catholic Current, where we discuss our faith and give you an update on events affecting the Church in the United States. From Washington, D.C., I'm Mara Moser. The National Eucharistic Congress recently took place in Indianapolis. It brought together more than 50,000 Catholics to celebrate our Eucharistic Lord. I spent the week at the Congress with the Catholic Faith Network from the Diocese of Rockville Center. We want to share with you some of the interviews from the event. It was truly extraordinary, and this is not the end of the Eucharistic Revival. We are now entering the third year of the National Revival. First, I spoke with Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop of New York. He was at the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul, where he celebrated Mass for the pilgrims from New York.
You know, it's a validation of an act of faith, because I would have to say personally, and I think I speak for some other bishops, when this was first introduced in COVID, you know, some of the brave bishops, I'm thinking of Bishop Cousin, said, you know, brothers, we're wringing our hands all the time. We hear these somber polls about people who have lost their belief in the true teaching of the doctrine of the Church, on the power and the presence of the Eucharist. Our numbers are going down for Sunday Mass. We have to do something. And they said, let's announce the Eucharistic Revival, and let's launch 3 years of preparation for it. And darn it, it's worked. I can remember Amara saying, oh no, not another project. How many meetings is this going to be? How much is this going to cost us? Is this going to work? Are we going to be driving people crazy, trying to get them out to come to this? There's no problem at all. The people kind of picked it up, and now you see the ecstasy here. Isn't this beautiful? This Eucharistic Revival, for me, is a real exhibit A, in the best sense of the word, of the four marks of the true Church. One, holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church. So what do you see? It's one, because you see a unity in faith. We're all united, not in faith in a doctrine, but a faith in a person, the second person of the Most Blessed Trinity, whom we believe is really and truly present in the Eucharist. So the Church is one. Holy, my gosh, when you see the lines for the Sacrament of Penance, when you see people kneeling in silent, humble, grateful adoration in front of the Eucharist, when you see people participating so reverently and so actively in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, you see there's holiness there. One holy Catholic, meaning everybody. Have you ever seen such cultural diversity? Well, as they say, when you say Catholic, you mean here comes everybody. It's everybody. Now everybody talks about a diversity. Heck, we've been into that since Pentecost Sunday, right? And you see it here. Languages, obviously, 99% of the people are from the United States, but there's a diversity within the Catholic family in the United States. It is nothing less than breathtaking. And you see it here, one holy Catholic and apostolic. That's what reminds me here in this cathedral of Peter and Paul, the two princes of the apostles. So the faith, as St. Paul says, I hand on to you what I myself received, right? That handing on, that tradition with a capital T, that apostolic office of handing on what the apostles received from Jesus. So I see that kind of alive and almost like a big fireworks display of those four marks of the true Church, one holy Catholic and apostolic at this Congress.
I also spoke with Bishop James Masa from the Diocese of Brooklyn about the centrality of the Eucharist to the Catholic faith.
The Eucharist is so quintessentially Catholic. It's a very Catholic sacrament, and so we see it as defining our identity as Catholic Christians. Whereas other denominations, it's important, the celebration of the Lord's Supper, as it's often called, but the Eucharist for us is what makes the Church what she is. It builds her up. So we are gathered by the Eucharist, and the Eucharist forms us. We call it the sacrament of love and the sacrament of unity. Where do we get our unity as Catholics? How do we recognize other Catholics around the world? They celebrate the Eucharist. They go to Mass. That's what gives us our unity as Catholics, along with having the Pope as our chief shepherd and the bishops of the Church as a college of servant priests who govern local churches, dioceses. that gives us unity, but the Eucharist in a particular way is what binds us together in love. So, I would say other Christians look upon that as something, that's what Catholics do, and that's what is for Catholics the source of their identity. Again, they will celebrate the Lord's Supper, but for us it's something deeply, deeply special.
A lot of people at the Congress have had profound experiences with the Eucharist. I spoke with Father Shan Magaldi, who's the director of college campus ministry at the Diocese of Rockville Center, about one such experience he had.
So I remember when I was a freshman in college, it was the first time I ever experienced Eucharistic adoration. And in my mind, I always knew that it was Jesus, but I don't think it clicked in my heart. And there was a moment where the priest brought out the Eucharist and put Jesus in the monstrance. And when he turned the monstrance towards us, there was maybe 20 of us on the retreat. Mm-hmm. It was like this moment where I was like, that's Jesus. Mm-hmm. And it clicked in a way that it never had before. And it's never been the same since.
Eucharistic adoration was an important part of the Congress. At one of the evening's events at Lucas Oil Stadium, Bishop William Byrne of the Diocese of Springfield led the benediction. He and I spoke outside the convention center about the joyous atmosphere at the Congress.
Overwhelming. I think that's the experience that people are having. They are overwhelming in a beautiful way.
Yes.
Thus, the sheer number of people, the nuns and priests, the bishops, the families all over, and then the scope of the talks and all the opportunities to delve more deeply into our Catholic faith and get to know our Lord.
Lastly, I spoke with Bishop Andrew Cousins of the Diocese of Crookston. Bishop Cousins has been spearheading the National Eucharistic Revival and led the first night of adoration at Lucas Oil Stadium, where tens of thousands of people joined him in prayerful silence. I asked Bishop Cousins what he was praying for as he knelt in the center of the crowd during a very profound moment of silence and reverence.
I was praying for everybody who's here and everybody who's watching online and everybody who's participating. And I was simply asking, Lord, make saints, give us deeper conversion of heart, right? Help us to be able to be drawn closer to you so that we can be more who you want us to be in the world. Part of the beauty is just the gathering of the church. We have 200 bishops here. We have well over 1,000 priests here. We have hundreds of religious sisters here, thousands of them. We have so many families here. We have lay people of all ages. And the church has gathered. And part of the beauty of what the Lord wants to do is just unite us by sharing with each other our love, our faith, our joy. And that joy is, I can tell you, really palpable as you walk around the hallways of the convention center amongst the 50,000 people who are here. Also, though, the renewal that we're seeking in the church is a renewal that happens in individual people's hearts. And that's not bound by being here. Certainly it can be a great help to be here, but having that deeper encounter with the Lord himself just at your own Mass, at your own adoration chapel, can make a huge difference to bring about the change of heart, which is really what's going to change our world.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Catholic Current. You can find out more about the National Eucharistic Revival by visiting us online at usccb.org or follow us on social media at usccb. I'm Mara Moser. See you next time.